Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show. We're back again with some of the regulars and some of the people that come on semi-regularly, but are always here to discuss the best things about Arsenal. There's some with faces. There's some that doesn't want to show a face, so you can make your own mind up about the reasons why. I'd like to see some comments as to why Drew might not be showing his face. That would be the wrong reasons, but they're obviously the most funny to read. So if we can get some comments in the chat box as to why we think Drew isn't showing his face, that'd be great. We can read some of them out. But Drew, it's nice to have you on, even though I can't see you.
Look, man, what was this, like one of the last four? I think I deserve a pass. Also, I'm tired of being told I look like Troops. I'm going to murder someone.
So I keep seeing that comment, and it's the most lazy.
It sends me to the moon and back. But we can all laugh at Spurs today, and that's what really matters. So
Avon reckons it's to do with your hair. Is it to do with your hair?
Yeah, my hair is an absolute shit show. At least I have hair, unlike someone else on this panel, though. So
Chubbs has said nothing to you, and you've just gone in on it.
But I love him, so I have to rag on him because I love him so much. So
speaking of which, Judges, it's good to have you here, fella.
Well, it was about 10 seconds ago. I've had a good couple of days, boys. Had a good couple of days. Arsenal winning, Spurs losing. It's been a good couple of days, and then I'm missing the Man City Liverpool game to be abused by Drew. I can't believe it, but there you go.
He's getting abused in the chat now, so it's all fine.
Good. Give him as much stick as you want on there, please. I'm all for it.
It's brilliant stuff. And French finally making up our quartet this evening. Good to have you on, fella.
Yeah, man. Good to be here. 2 pods, 2 wins in a row. It's going all right, isn't it?
Can't complain too much. Can't complain whatsoever. As I say, we are recording about half an hour or so after Spurs have just lost to Sheffield United, which suddenly makes our win against them even more sweeter than it was originally. A lot of people said that it was quite fluky, and to be honest, I'll take a fluky win against a side that are beating Spurs any day of the week. But we're here to talk about, obviously, our most recent win in Norwich and look ahead to the Wolves game and some of the interesting stuff that's been happening off the pitch as well. Judges, I'm going to start with you, mate. That Norwich game, I saw a funny clip of you in our group chat reacting to Louise, I think it was, at some point during the game. You weren't particularly happy that he was playing, was you? Was it Mustafi?
It was Mustafi, yeah. Oh, no. Do you know what? He's starting to really grind on me, I tell you, what I mean? It's because, that was by the way, great win yesterday. I felt that we was always likely to win the game, but to win it 4-0, I think was a fantastic thing, I don't think it gets the credit it deserves, I'll be honest. I feel very, we beat Sheffield United. It's because the crowd weren't there, and they're not very good. And then they go and beat Spurs, and it'll be all like how good Sheffield United were today, and all things like that. I'll just get a little bit of that. But going back to Mustafi against Sheffield United, he put himself under by some bad things, and I'm going to take a compliment. I think that Mikel Arteta was watching that and he decided, I think Lee's right and get rid of him, because he subbed him at half time, and quite rightly so. He was, it's just what really gets my goat about Mustafi is he can defend and defend well, but he then just lapses of concentration and silly mistakes, sloppy passes. We're 2-0 up. I'll tell you when it was. We was 2-0 up and going into Arsenal, and it just gives away the most stupidest free kick you could ever wish to make. And then they could get back into the game. It's just silly little things like that irritate me about him. And if we're ever going to go on and be a successful side, those sort of things cannot be allowed, Tom. And that's why, it's my opinion, cut your losses and get rid.
I mean, Zamir says in the chat box that he's been our most solid and consistent centre-back since Arteta came in. And I kind of agree with Zamir in the sense that he's been the most consistent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what you were saying is that there's always going to be that element that he can make an error, and he can make an error which leads to a goal or a really good chance for the opposition. He's never going to breed confidence, I feel, in us.
Yeah, and my point to that is, Tom, if he was playing for Liverpool, Zamir wouldn't be saying that. He'd be saying that Van Dijk is the best and so. He'd be the fourth. You know what I mean? Let's be honest, he wouldn't even get in Liverpool's team. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is the reason that he's saying that, he's the best of a bad bunch. But I will say that Kolasinac has been doing, and he seems to be slightly better. I think in the last 2 games he's been the better defender. But it just annoys me about Mustafi. He gives the opposition chances to come onto us, and I don't like it. So
that's fair enough. That's fair enough, mate. French. I mean, there was some interesting decisions that Arteta made with the lineup. He's obviously omitted the likes of Saka after he signed a new deal. We will come on to that a little bit later. And Pepe was rested as well. Were you surprised with some of the decisions? Because I, in the prediction show, said that he would rest quite a few players, knowing that we were playing quite a poorer side in Norwich with the Wolves game in hand. But a lot of people on social media were fuming with the decisions that he made. So where were you sort of on this situation?
No, I wasn't fuming at all. What Arteta has done very well since he's come in is build a system that is flexible. And we've seen all kinds of players that haven't shined necessarily under previous managers come in and do extremely well. So, like, as an element of me just saying, right, I just trust the manager with the lineup. But I still had a few questions about it. I wasn't fuming at all. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me was Bellerin's inclusion. Because I thought Ainsley did very well on the weekend. And I thought that... Bellerin hasn't been doing well recently, and I get he was maybe rested on the weekend with a mind for him to come back, but I don't think he should just be getting straight back into the team based off his last few performances. He's just got a thing of cutting inwards and sort of coming inside, and he doesn't really stretch the play. He doesn't have the speed that he used to. He's not finding crosses. He's not. A lot of the simple balls are going wrong. I think in the previous game prior to the weekend, he lost the ball like 11 times in 30 odd minutes or something, and that kind of form, I don't know why he's just coming right back into the team. It's a bit right back. It's a bit strange. And like when he came, and with Pepe not being there, I understand maybe Nelson might have had a bet because he's not been like backing Pepe up at all. But I feel like an element of that is because Pepe likes to cut inside, and Bellerin also likes to cut inside, and they kind of negate each other in that sense. But maybe with Nelson, being right-footed.
Bellerin used to love overlapping Pepe, or just rather our right winger. He used to love getting to the byline, but he has. I take that point on board. He has started to cut in more, which is strange.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a little bit strange that he started. But apart from that, I didn't really have any issues with it. It was like I said, I've got some faith in the system that Arteta's building that I can see. And especially against a team like Norwich, we can afford to have a couple of kind of passengers. So to say, because that's really what he was in the game for the most part. And he tried well, to be fair. He did play he made, some good run type of thing, but he just wasn't effective. He wasn't doing what he needed to do. And as soon as his substitution came on, he did what he did. And, Bellerin looked pissed after the game. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get the thoughts of Drew, just have a quick jump into the chat box to see what you guys are saying. Of course, I know we are recording at exactly the same site that Man City, Liverpool are on, and some people are pointing out that City have gone 1-0 up through Kevin De Bruyne, which is basically nothing, but it's something that's happened. Zamir points out that all of our centre-backs have made a mistake in them. Also, we can't compare any of our players to Liverpool except Auba. I think the point that you were making, though, was more so that Mustafi gets nowhere near that Liverpool side, and if he was in it, you'd be looking at Van Dijk as the guy who's clearly making no mistakes, and you've got someone like Mustafi that's got a mistake in him that even when he goes on a decent run of form, you can't take away from that sort of uncertainty that he might mess up at some point. So I completely take that on board. Mike Hernandez, one of our members, said, as of late, Mustafi has been way better, in my opinion. What's the difference of him making one mistake and giving a free kick away versus Auba missing an easy goal chance? I think that the difference would be, Mike, that Aubameyang is joint top scorer in the league, and Mustafi isn't really being thought about as one of the top defenders in the league right now. Aubameyang doesn't miss, I don't think, too many clear-cut chances, unlike somebody, Drew, someone that had a bit of a game, but a run of games now is Lacazette. He had that chance on his left foot, spurned it wide. He just wasn't about it. And then Nketiah came on and seemed energetic and at it. And you can really start to see why Arteta is starting to favour the youngster.
I like how you phrase that as if it has to do with something that I've possibly said over the years. But I also don't know what your question is, really. But regarding Lacazette, I just kind of feel like
criticising Lee for his look, criticising the host.
Yeah, this is how it goes today. No, I'm just kidding.
Prepare yourself, French. You're about to get slammed any second.
No, French has done absolutely nothing. It's okay. No, I just feel like he's lacking confidence. That's kind of really it. And I think when you're a striker, you're not scoring goals right now. Maybe you're unsure about your role moving forward in the team. Potentially, we don't really know. But it's clear that he's not okay in some sense. I still take that he gives us a lot of, or he gives Arteta a lot of what he wants from a center forward. But even I can say that if you're a center forward who isn't scoring goals, or at least isn't testing the keeper in those scenarios, that's the issue. It's all well and good if you're not getting the goals, but you do have to make the keeper work. And Lacazette isn't even doing that. And in years past, maybe his first season, there are scoring opportunities where it was in the second half, maybe, where that lofted ball came in, and instead of putting his foot through it on the volley, he tried to volley it back across the face of goal to set somebody else up. And I was just like, well, that doesn't seem like someone who's confident right now. So to me, that's kind of where it begins and ends, and it's troubling. But that's why you have a squad. And Nketiah comes in, and even though his final ball, his final end product isn't at a high level yet, he still is working to get there, and I think that's quite clear. And I think that's why a lot of the fans want to see him. We need to keep the future in mind, and obviously, as we move forward, we don't know if we're going to be able to keep both Auba and Laka in the same team. So right now, it's almost as if Lacazette's competing with Nketiah for that center forward. Well, at the beginning of next season, you'd have to say that at the moment, maybe long term, Nketiah could be battling it out and is the lead at the moment, but. It's troubling for sure. I mean, I think we're all kind of worried about it, and especially when we're thinking about finances involved. If Lacazette's not going to be, playing at a level befitting of his weekly wage and etc., then you kind of have to think that maybe he might be on a chopping block rather him than maybe Aubameyang potentially. But we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's really difficult to look at those two as even on the same level at the moment, because Nketiah just seems to be giving us so much more, and Laka's he's just in such a rut that he's forcing it by dropping deep so much, trying to get on the ball as much as possible. And by forcing it, I just feel he's making it worse. And it can only go, you could argue it can only get better from here, but it could stagnate at the point that it is and really, really put him in the frame of mind among a lot of fans that he probably should be on the chopping block come the summer and make us some money to reinvest elsewhere. I don't want to spend too much time on the Norwich game because, of course, I covered it quite a lot in detail in yesterday's show. But I do want to get the reaction of you guys to some of the news that's been breaking. And Lee, one of the biggest stories was, of course, Bukayo Saka signing a new deal. He didn't play in the Norwich game. He was being rested for, obviously, the Wolves game this weekend, which is very important. We're going to have a talk about that a little bit later on. But it's so key that Arsenal lock down these youngsters. And it was bad enough seeing Saka getting to only a year left on his deal. But now we've actually got him to sign. How much do you think Arteta deserves credit for this, and how big is this for the club?
Well, I think 18 years of age, and I just think it's a massive statement. It's a massive statement of positivity all round, I have to say, because I think probably, arguably, he's up there with Leno and Aubameyang as our best players this season. He's 18, but he can play different positions. And I think it's a fantastic statement, not just for that we've got him, but also looking forward, because I'm sure there would have been conversations, of where the team's going to go, what's going to be happening. Because if I was as talented as him, whether I be 18, 21 or whatever, I would want to know where I'll be playing, and what the team's going to be, because I think that he is that talented. He could go to a lot of top clubs even now. And so I think that discussions must have been said about what players we're going to attract and whatever. And I think Mikel Arteta coming in, I think has shown everybody at the club, whether you like it or not, and you may, as he says, not get on the boat or not. But what it does show is that that there's some sort of, I would say, like plan. That there seems to be a way of the team going. There seems to be a purpose in that team. And I think there's encouragement from all of that. I felt that under Emery and even under Freddie, when he was there for a few games, it was too much uncertainty. But he's come in and levelled all that out. Yes, there's players falling by the wayside at the moment, but they've got a chance to. I think they give them a chance. But for me, the most important young player we've got at this football club is Saka and Martinelli, and they're the two standout players to take us for not only on the footballing side, Tom, but also that for me than the financial levels. But these two players in another couple of years' time are going to be worth a lot of money. So if things don't work out with the ambition of the football club, we can sell them and invest in other areas. But I'm hoping that won't happen. I'm hoping what will happen there is that the board see that we've potentially got some very, very good youngsters out there. If we can bring in a few top class players, I think we can go places. And certainly with Saka, I think because he can play in different positions, didn't have the greatest game at Sheffield United, by the way, but when it mattered, he was the one that was on the ball and made things happen. And I just think that 18 years of age, we've got a gem, an absolute gem. We signed him for 5 years. Whether his contract went into a year or not doesn't matter. We've got it done. And that shows that there's something going on right at the football club. And that is a good message for everybody.
100%. I mean, speaking of players' futures, and without failing to try and backtrack too much, whilst Saka seems to be resolved, French, there are a couple of players that certainly don't seem like they're going to be resolved. Ozil and Guendouzi left out of the squad again against Norwich. I mean, Ozil makes more sense because we've known for quite a long time now that he seems to be basically being forced out now by Arteta. There's the rumour about a back injury. I don't buy it. I don't think a lot of fans buy it whatsoever. It's just something we've been told time and time again. Whether it's true or not, we don't know really, but it feels a bit odd. But the Guendouzi thing in particular is more interesting because once again, he's been left out the squad. Arteta's being asked on it week in, week out. Even in today's press conference on Guendouzi, he said it's still to be decided. So what do you make of this? And how do you think Arteta's dealing with it?
I think he's just kind of having a no-nonsense approach to it, which, the iron fist, he's just said, if you're not playing by my rules, because after the game in the press conference, he was asked about it and he said nothing's changed with regards to that. And I think it's kind of straightforward. And I think, for me, I think Guendouzi is probably going to leave in summer. I think it's kind of it's one of those make or break moments for him, really. So if he comes back from this, then it's a very positive sign about his attitude, because that would suggest that he's completely decided to check his own kind of priorities in favor for working hard here, rather than, because I believe he's trying to get into the French team for the Euros. He's had a few call-ups. He's ahead of, a lot of players in terms of getting French call-ups. Think of all the players that don't get to go play for France. People like Martial, Lacazette, even Rabiot. And so I can understand why he would say, right, if I'm not going to get the chances here, I'm going to go somewhere where I can get the game time. But if he decides to stay, I think that would be quite, it'll be something kind of, I'll be very surprised, basically. I think for me, when I saw that he was completely out of the squad for a second time in a row, even on the weekend against Sheffield, I was like, right, that's it really for me. That's the decider, because it just tells me that Arteta's not going to bend on this. He's not going to sort of fold on this. He's going to stick to his guns, I think. And for me, I think Guendouzi seems to be a very proud lad as well. And if it's lasted this long and it's playing for France at stake, and me as a French person, I've got vested interests as well. I want to see him play for France. There are discussions about Atletico Madrid being interested. We know we want one of their midfielders. Rather than it being a funds question, it might also be just a grease in the kind of, grease in the hand, like just makes it a bit easier. For me, I've got no problem with Arteta, doing what he has to do, because again, we can see that we've got a system right now that we can lose certain players. We've lost some of our, top quality players. We lost our defender in Mari. We lost our goalkeeper in Leno. Guendouzi's been dropped. Ozil's not played a minute. And, we're Martinelli, exactly. And we're still getting some results. We're actually now playing a little bit of decent football. So I can see a system working where I don't have to worry. No player is, bigger than the system or the club. And, we can drop anyone, basically. So, yeah.
Drew, how's your opinion on the situation sort of evolved over the last week or so? I mean, you were very much seemingly on board with, if he's not right, sort of move him on. Have you changed from that, or are you still very much on the wagon of he needs to be moved on?
No, I think it's something we can all agree with. It's when you're not trying to squeeze in a young player into something that already existed. You're talking about almost a complete rebuild of most aspects of the club from the top down. The way it's run, the way it's structured, what the manager wants, his tactical vision. the type of players he wants at the club, the types of players he wants to work with, the bonds he's looking to form. These are all important questions. And if Guendouzi is not going to fit, a sizable chunk of those molds, then why would you want to keep him? At that point, there's just no amount of talent level that you can sell me on to say that player is right or for that. It's the same thing with Mesut Ozil. And you guys know that I've been a massive fan of Mesut Ozil for literally his entire career. But as things keep coming out, it's more and more looking like he's just not the type of player we want at the club anymore. So it's no different. Just because he's 12 years older than Guendouzi doesn't mean that the situation is too dissimilar. You need players to be on board in all aspects or something to as serious of a project as we're undertaking to come off correctly. You need everyone on the same page. And if Guendouzi's not going to be on the same page, then he has to go. And I think it sucks that we have to bemoan losing a player that has clear potential. I agree with French there. I think you're looking at a player who, in a couple of years' time, could be playing a vital role for the French national team. I think that's without dispute. But that doesn't mean that he's going to fit what we're trying to do culturally at the club. They're two different things. Also, can people please stop bringing up Serge Gnabry with this discussion?
Oh, yeah.
It's not the same thing, but moving past that. It's just, you kind of have to just say and look at the bigger picture. You can appreciate the talent, but as a football club, you have to look at what we're doing in the wider scope and know that, if he's not going to fit, then he's got to go. And then hopefully we make the right choice if we move past him. That's the bigger question. Will the brass, will Raul, will Vina, Edu, will all make the right choices with whatever we get in return for him, whether if it's a player exchange or cash, whatever, do we handle that portion of that correctly as well? So it's multi-tiered, multifaceted, but it's certainly not the end of the world, Bigger players, bigger and better younger players have left bigger and better clubs. It won't be the first time, so it won't be the last.
Yeah, exactly. I think that people need to sort of separate the 2 points because, you look at players that have left. If you thought this way about all of our players, then no one would ever leave, and that can't happen. Football clubs need to refresh and move players out that need to be moved on. If you'd have looked at like Alexis Sanchez when he left compared to Gnabry, a lot of fans were more irritated by that, but arguably Alexis moved on and never recaptured the same form. Who's to say that Guendouzi will improve if he moves on to someone else? I hope the guy does, because you never want to see a player do badly unless he's moving to one of our biggest rivals, obviously. But you can't associate the two together. It needs to be separated. You can't always think we can't let these guys go, especially if we get a decent fee for him. Lee, where's your head at on the Guendouzi situation? Are you with the boys on that he needs to move on if his attitude's not right, or do you think there's so much potential there that we need to hold on to him?
It's a really difficult one. I can see both sides of the argument, if I'll be honest. The thing is, you've got to look, if the manager doesn't want him, it doesn't matter what potential he can have and whatever. You have to go what the manager decides. And now you've put him in charge to make those decisions. And somewhere along the line, you've got to make difficult decisions. You talk about the Serge Gnabry one. You can't go looking at that as a thing as well. There was circumstances in there that were completely different. I'm pretty sure Serge Gnabry would have had a long and prosperous career at Arsenal if he didn't get that knee injury. Things happened then that changed the course of that. Andy Cole was a fantastic player in the youth team for Arsenal going back in the day, but we had Ian Wright, in the side, and he wasn't ever going to come in front of Ian Wright, so we had to let him go. There's talk about another young player, that might not be sign a new contract, but sometimes, are you going to get in front of the likes of Aubameyang and so and so and so and so? There's so many players, Bentley was another fantastic player for us as a youth player, but the truth of the matter is he had Perez and Lundberg in front of him. Sometimes it's about timing, and the timing's right for, say, someone like Saka. Unfortunately, it might not be right for somebody else, and for Guendouzi, it might be wrong time, wrong place. It's just one of those things. And now, I'm a big fan of his. I think there is potential there, but at this moment in time, if you're going to bring in, say, someone like Party or whatever you're going to bring in, where is he going to play? And so it might be that to fund another deal, like to fund a central defender that we might need, which is long time is what is a better for us, that we may have to say, right, well, okay, we're still Guendouzi, but it brings in a big centre half that we've wanted, So whatever the manager decides to do, you have to go along with it. Now, when George Graham was manager at Arsenal, there were things I didn't agree with. He got rid of my favourite player in Charlie Nicholas, you know what I mean? But what he done was he knew he had someone like Paul Merson coming through. He got Alan Smith, and the rest is history. So what you've got to do is there will be casualties along the way. Don't matter what it will be. If he's the right man, and we believe he's the right man for the job, you have to accept there will be casualties, and you have to go along with it, whether you agree with it or not. You know, and at this moment in time, I would love to see Guendouzi come in. But if you're looking at it, a £40 million sort of deal, that's the sort of in the same sort of league as when we bought Nicolas Anelka and sold him a couple of years later for Real Madrid. Gutted as we were, but look what it done for us. It financed us Thierry Henry and things like that. You know, so whatever happened, and you know, Drew's right what he says there. You know, players come and players go. Simple as that, you know what I mean? When Anelka went, I thought we was never going to replace. I never thought we'd ever replace Ian Wright. Anelka come along. Anelka, Thierry Henry. We've had Aubameyang. We've had Adebayor's goals before that. Van Persie. Players will come and players go. And Guendouzi, if he doesn't make it at Arsenal, but he makes it at somewhere else, then good luck to him. You know, it's not necessarily a mistake by Arsenal. You know, so that's how I see it. I don't agree. I don't agree. What I wouldn't want to see him go for is because Mikel Arteta can't handle him. Now, that would worry me because he's 20 years of age, 21 years of age, and that would worry me in the long term because you're going to get a lot of big-time players, if you're going to be successful, that are going to have egos, are going to do this and do that. So if he can't handle someone at 21, then that's a big worry for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump in on that because you brought up a very interesting point. I'm having a sidebar text chat about cocky athletes. I think even though Arteta's in his first year of managing, I think he's shown that he's not afraid to stand up to players if they're stepping out the line. I think the difference here is that you're looking at a young player who hasn't proved anything to have that level of personality yet. If a new manager comes in and Thierry Henry is in his prime and he's giving you that same attitude, I think you kind of let it go a little bit. And you sort of try to find middle ground because it's Thierry Henry in his prime and he can essentially do whatever he wants. Michael Jordan was very much that way as a basketball player. Kobe Bryant, same thing as a basketball player, where their personalities and their confidence levels, and yes, their cockiness was at such a high level that it was tough to handle. But you kind of almost made do with it. You came to terms with it, but you also harnessed it. I don't think Guendouzi's cockiness is able to be harnessed because he's young and he's still impetuous and he's still making those young footballing mistakes in that cockiness. I think it's a little bit of a different thing for me. So I wouldn't say that I think Arteta would let him go because he has that attitude problem. I think it's more of you can be cocky, but if behind that cockiness, if there's so much about you mentally that doesn't fit what he's trying to build, then he would let him go. I think there's a very, very big difference between the two things. I think French is about to disagree, so I can't wait for that.
I bet Diego Simeone sorts any kind of young cockiness, anything out. I bet he doesn't have an issue sorting that attitude out. I'm not suggesting that Arteta does, but I think it's interesting that, you know, the club that we're thinking that he might go to is somewhere where, you know, we have someone like Diego Costa, someone mentioned in the chat, who has a lot of attitude. Yeah. I think maybe Simeone will, you know, not even try and negate that, but just find a way to channel it. Like I get Lee's point in with regards to if it's because he can't handle it. I also have a kind of fear there that if that is the case, then yeah.
Deary me, who's that? Is that you, Lee?
Welcome to New York City, where car alarms always go off.
That's why you had your camera off.
Yeah, how'd you know? Just came back from a quick heist. Didn't want you guys to know.
He's nicked the car. Yeah, that's why I don't want us to see him.
Brilliant stuff. The Simeone point's interesting because I think that, like, he's a manager that, as French said, channels that sort of that attitude. But for me, there's a difference between being cocky and arrogant. I think the best players, Thierry Henry's, etc., they had to be arrogant to be where they are. That constant need to be the best and have that persona about them. But if Arteta doesn't want that sort of the way that Guendouzi is expressing it, then I think that he's more than in his right to omit him from the squad and maybe move him on. He wants players that want to invest in his philosophy, what he wants to get from the team, and that's completely up to him. And it is about time, I feel, that someone took a stamp on it. You look at Unai Emery, who was the previous man in charge, went to PSG, failed to control the attitudes of Mbappe and Neymar, came to Arsenal and again kind of failed to control a lot of the massive personalities. You look at how highly David Luiz, how highly Aubameyang speaks of Arteta, even in a time where Aubameyang could leave. And I think that says a lot about someone like Arteta that has come in, unified the squad as a whole, and put us into a really strong position moving forward.
I have a question for you guys real fast. Think back to this way. So what do you make of the fact that it could just be that Guendouzi hasn't really had a humbling experience yet as a young footballer? Henry was humbled when he went to Juve and it didn't work out for him. That's a huge humbling experience. But on the flip side, look at how cocky and confident Anelka was when he went from Monaco and came to Arsenal and it hit the ground running. Things just went right for him from the offset. He didn't have that humbling experience for him. And look at how his career ended up angling itself. Could it simply just be that maybe Guendouzi just had to be honest with himself and look at this experience and say he can either make one of it two ways? You know what I mean? No, go on.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was alluding to in the previous pod where we were on with regards to the context of his arrival, right? Like he's we say that he hasn't achieved anything, but if we look at it from his point of view, he is a 21-year-old millionaire who's left PSG to go make his own way in League Two, come back up again to a Premier League club and become a starter, and in a disorganized team that wasn't doing too well, become our most prominent, one of the most consistent midfielders we had under Emery. And he's possibly our highest valued midfielder now. And so it's like,
he is actually, yeah, he's just
for a 21-year-old, he's coming. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely. I
definitely.
Are you? Have we got delay, French? I think you think we're talking when you're. Okay. I mean, just in terms of like where you're looking at the value of players, if Arsenal can cash in on someone like Guendouzi and get 30 to 40 million pounds in a period that seemingly Arsenal need that financial boost, then why not when he's someone that seemingly isn't in Arteta's plans for the future? You can't just hang on to players and just wish them to do better and that hopefully things will work out. If someone comes in with a decent-sized bid, which is possible with the likes of PSG supposedly circling around him as amongst another group of clubs, then I really don't see the issue with it whatsoever. Let's move on to something which is a really interesting thing at the moment, because we were so sure that Aubameyang was going to be, I mean, I was certainly sure that I didn't feel like he was going to be at the club next season, but a really interesting press conference came out today. So I want to show that. I'm hoping that you can see my screen. Fingers crossed. There we go. So in terms of the press conference that went on today, when he was asked about Aubameyang's future, he said, "The way I feel, communicate with him and the energy I sense, it's just my opinion. In this moment, I feel he wants to continue with us and help us develop into a better team. He needs to feel we can achieve the goals he has individually and collectively. He's very settled in the city and loved by his teammates. That's what gives me the positivity." So I'm interested to get your thoughts on sort of where we stand on this one, because so many people compare this situation to Ozil. Now, there are similarities and there are differences when it comes to the re-signing of Aubameyang's contract. The similarities are that you've got someone that would be signing the final big contract of their career, would have little to no sell-on value whatsoever come the end of that deal, but you've got someone who is very important to the team. And Ozil was thought of as someone who was important to the team back when he did sign. But the differences for me are that you've got someone in Aubameyang that has consistently performed for Arsenal, whereas Ozil had not consistently performed for Arsenal when he signed his deal. So there's two options. Either we let him leave for a decent fee, and when I say decent, I'm thinking around 20 to 30 million maximum if we're lucky, because you've got to think about the age he is, how long's left on his deal, or you keep him and he continues, fingers crossed, to do what he has been doing so far in the team. French, I'm going to throw to you first, mate. Where do you stand on this situation? Do you want to see him sign, or do you think Arsenal should be cashing in?
Yeah, it's funny that I definitely feel at this point that I want to see him sign, because at one point, I kind of lost faith in a lot of our senior players. And that's coming back to the kind of regulation of, the attitude in the kind of dressing room. And I felt like, right, if we're going to have a rebuild, we're not going to be amazing in the next 2 years. So let's look at the next 5 years type of thing. But with the way that he's been, like, since Arteta's come in, and he's just continuously worked harder and harder and improved, and the kind of conversations that you're hearing now, both from him and from Arteta, it seems to be really positive. So I think that if we can sign him, definitely we should. The third option you didn't mention is that we do nothing and just let him go into the last year of his contract and just kind of hope that he signs, or that, just use him for that last year, which is the one thing I wouldn't want us to do. Although even then, at this point, it might be more beneficial depending on the kind of players that we're looking to get in. If we are looking to get into Champions League, based off of getting a Partey and some kind of players like that in. So for me, I think we should do everything we can to keep him, because just purely based on his goal output and also his overall attitude, I think he's showing that he wants to continue working hard. You mentioned Ozil not being consistent, and he was in a slightly better Arsenal team, definitely a more coherent Arsenal team. And he had someone like Sanchez as well to work with. I mean, Aubameyang's really has been the shining light, apart from Leno maybe, since Emery's been in, and he's been doing it in a team without anything. And I think from the comments, I think it seems quite clear that sometimes we can be quite cynical as fans, as think the players just want money, but sometimes they do want to actually win stuff and see that the club has some ambition, and see who they're signing, and see that we're building towards something. And if that is the case, and he does end up signing and he stays, and I think that's a really positive sign, because that indicates that, like with Saka, they're both seeing something that Arteta is trying to build, that they believe in and that they think is worth pledging their careers to, which, I think would be fantastic news. So, yeah.
Judges?
Biggest thing for me, if he signs, I think it'd be a great, because the reason he's going to sign is because of what promises have been made by the board. And I really do think it's down to that. I don't think it's down to financial gain or whatever like that. I think that he wants to win things, or be in a chance of winning things. And if Arsenal, do what they're saying are the rumour mill and what they're saying that they will do, why wouldn't he want to sign? Because, he is happy here, scoring goals. I think with a better calibre of midfield players around him, etc., he would be in a position where he would sign. When you look at it from the front three or four, because I do feel that Arsenal will sell Lacazette at the end of this season. You've got like Pepe, who's going to get better and better. You've got Martinelli, who's going to get better and better, and himself, and of course Eddie coming in as well. So there's four very, very good players there to come in, and I think that we'll make another signing as well. Maybe let Nelson go out on loan. He only needs to sign 3 or 4 players, and we've got a team that's not going to go on and win the league. We know that, but it's going to compete with the Champions League and get into. But once you're in the Champions League, Tom, anything can happen in the Champions League. The best teams don't win the Champions League or get to finals. That was proved last year. So I'm not saying Liverpool. I'm talking Tottenham, by the way. So
we understood.
So thank you. So I think it's a massive statement. If he comes out and signs, it's because I think that things are being said that are going to be done. What Mikel Arteta said today, I think is fantastic. Some of the things that he said has really encouraged me that there will be big signings at this football team. And if there's not big signings at this football team, it's down to 2 people, and that is the Cronkies. It's down to them. He's put it firmly in their court. If he wants to sign Aubameyang, you get me the players that I want, and not only will Aubameyang sign, but we will challenge for this and that. And with the top teams, he said today in that interview, with the if we don't get the players we want, we will not challenge in the top. He said exactly what all of us fans want, and I think at the end of the day, if he was Aubameyang, and let's be honest, Tom, let's go right down and be honest and go, like, if you walked into Aubameyang today and said, do you know what, Pierre, we're not signing no one else, it's going to be the same team as last year, they sign the thing. He's going to turn around and say, no, thank you. But if you come in there and say, do you know what, we're bringing in Partey, we're bringing in Grealish, we're bringing in so-and-so, we're bringing in Apamecano, whatever his name is, whatever, blah, 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 blah. he'd be encouraged to sign it. It's like anybody, you know what I mean? You go to a football team whether you're playing Sunday morning or you're playing semi-professional and that, what encourages you to go to the football team is the players that are there or the players that they're going to be bringing in. You know, then you talk money. You know, I mean, I don't think that's changed as far as anybody's concerned, and I think that's not changed with Saka, and I'm hoping that won't change with Aubameyang. If Aubameyang signs, right, I'll tell you this now, while I'm sitting here now, we'll have a very, very good summer.
Yeah, I mean, if you think we can manage to keep hold of him and say sign, as you said, a Partey, sign possibly a creative player, be it a Szoboszlai, be it Grealish. I think Grealish would cost way too much personally.
Yeah, I don't think so. Really.
Yeah, but it's interesting. There's Drew. I'm going to come to you on this one because it's quite funny because you were telling me categorically Upper's not coming. Upamecano is not coming whatsoever. But I'm seeing some really odd links at the moment. I've spoken to a friend of mine who's into his German stuff as well, and he says there's whispers that things are going on as well. So do you think it's possible? And obviously I'm talking about the Auba situation as well because I know that you have such a strong feeling on this, but with those signings, say if we were to bring in a Partey, some in Dreamland we've managed to bring up a Meccano as well, which I would have written off a week ago, but things possibly are changing at the moment. Where do you think that's the type of thing that would convince the guy to stay, and you're in favour of him staying?
I don't know how to tackle the multi-tieredness of this. In my defense, I said Auba wasn't coming last summer.
My question.
No. I said Auba wasn't coming last summer, which was correct. This summer is different for a lot of different reasons. He didn't re-sign a contract at Leipzig. That's the first thing. He's told them categorically he wants to leave. His interest in coming to Arsenal is actually a real thing. It just depends on what the bargaining place is. Him not signing was the key in us knowing that we actually had a chance, which I approve of. If we get him, I'm happy to be wrong that he ended up coming here. That's not in dispute. In terms of Auba, I mean, I don't know. I have such a love-hate relationship with him. It's hard to hate the guy because of the goals he does score. You know, you can say right or wrong that he disappears in big games, because it's easy to disappear in big games when your entire team disappears in big games. So obviously, if you're a striker, you might not get a goal when your entire team behind you isn't playing well. But the fact is, he does score goals, and in the Premier League, if you want to have any ambition on challenging, you need a goal scorer. You need someone that can hit 20 goals a season. Really, I mean, in a realistic world, and he can do that for you. Whether if I want him to stay or not, that kind of depends. And this is kind of where the hate aspect of my opinion of him comes. It's if you're him in his position, and now he's moving, he's going to be 31, you know, and not to say that his career is over, but there aren't going to be a lot of teams at the top level who are going to want to take a punt on him for the wages he's going to want, also for the price that we're probably going to demand. So he kind of has a choice. It's either he risks alienating himself from the team to try to push for a move, or he just re-signs on for another 3 years, say till he's 34, and then gets this one last big deal, maybe even in some place like MLS before he retires. You never know. My issue with him is going to be if he's going to demand silly wages. I think we should let him go. I don't think we're in a position where we should be having bloated contracts anymore, especially with players that are over a certain age. And you brought up the Mesut Ozil deal as a prime example. And if you look at teams that are incredibly well run, they have very, very stringent wage structures, and even their best players don't make silly money. Like Robert Lewandowski is not on silly money at Bayern. Neither is Manuel Neuer, and those are their best players. So for me, I think that's kind of one of the keys. I mean, I'm happy to have him stay with us, but let's look at the finances that are going to be involved. But will he stay if we get big names? And I think he will. I don't think any of us can sit here and say we're going to win the league in 2 years, even if we get someone like Partey. I don't think we will. I just think a club like Liverpool and City, it's going to take longer than a 24-month period to really kind of topple them off the top of the table. I think the longer picture is more realistic, but he won't be here in 3 or 4 seasons. When we're actually going to be able to challenge the league, I don't think he'll be playing for Arsenal anymore. So. It just kind of depends on how you look at it. But he can help get us to that point. He can at least help get us back into Champions League. So even if we don't win a league with him here, even if we don't win a Champions League with him here or Europa League, whichever it might be, he can still play a vital role in getting us to the position where we finally can challenge for proper silverware, and that maybe that can be part of his legacy, as he helped us in the period where we needed a big name to kind of give us a kick up the ass and put us into a position where we were ready to be Arsenal again. So you never know.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I think that my head switched so much on Aubameyang over the last 6 months to a year about this deal and where my head's at. Because originally it was like I felt like we were in a financially tricky position, but then recently the things that Arteta has been saying on transfers has really sort of confused me. And sort of changed my mind, because I told you guys to have a look at the transcripts and some of the tweets that were coming out about the press conference. And Arteta was talking about how Arsenal cannot be. He was basically asked about if Arsenal are now going to have to sell players to buy. And he answered it by saying that Arsenal can't be a club that does that, and they can't be a club that has to sell their best talents to be able to invest and improve the squad. Judges, when you hear the manager saying that, do you think that he's saying that in the knowledge that Arsenal are, as you already talked about Aubameyang, that you think Aubameyang's been given sort of guarantees maybe that he's going to be backed and he's going to be supported with some good signings? Or do you actually think that he's saying that sort of thing to put pressure on the board to say that Arsenal need to be a club that keeps hold of their best assets and then improves it by spending on the squad as well?
No, I honestly think that, these conversations happened when he came to the club. I do believe that. I believe that he come in and said, "Look, I can do this and do that." And the fact of the matter is, what I'm seeing is that there is improvements in the team, in the way the team's set up and the way we're playing. And my thing is now, if I was somebody on the board, I'd be going, "Oh, I'm excited by this. If we get the players in that he wants, look what we can do." Now, Drew's right. It'll take more than 2 years to win the title. But what I'm saying is, if you can bring in 2 or 3 players now, it can transform the whole club, the whole attitude of the club, the whole fan base. Man United have signed 1 player in Fernandes. It's not. They've still got weaknesses in their team, but look how much of an improvement that has been to take them from really like what they were messing about with us, and now all of a sudden they look like they're going to get the Champions League by making 1 top class signing. What it does is it parallels everybody up to another level. And I think that if we don't come in there and we did actually get these 2 players that were being talked about, I'm hearing from a lot of people now that close associates and whatever are all saying that the Upamecano deal is a possibility. You know what I mean? Partly is a possibility. Now, if them 2 players come in and we lose a Lacazette and we lose a Guendouzi, and that will give, and we then sign Aubameyang, it will give everybody a lift. And also, what's more important, it gives the players a lift, and it ups their level as well. And I think that what that would do was not necessarily take us challenging for the league, but it would then put us into a position where we could challenge for the top 4 realistically. Because with every team in that top 4, as you can see, Leicester, Chelsea, losing to West Ham, there are flaws. These other teams are improved. Chelsea, by the way, of trying to go one step with what they're buying. They will continue to buy. So you've got to worry about Newcastle's and Everton's coming up behind us. So we have got to make inroads to get these players in to push us to the next level. Otherwise, we'd be looking over our shoulder down at the bottom. So it's very, very vital that these things are done. I think that what Mikel Arteta has done today is fantastic, because what he's done is just underlined it, Tom. He's just underlined it to say, look, we spoke about this when I've come here. If we do not do this, I honestly believe if I was Mikel Arteta, and if he doesn't get the players what they're talking about and fund it, then he might as well leave. He might as well quit, because at the end of the day, we are going to be here next season. Who are they going to turn on? They're going to turn on the manager before they turn on the board, because it's the way that it is, So I think that there are. And listen, Arsenal made some very, very good astute signings last season. Pepe looks like to be a very, very good signing. Also, we've got Martinelli last season. We've got Saliba coming in as well. So there's been some good moves made by the club. So, back it up with another 2 big players or 3 players, and all of a sudden you've got what we've got, which we haven't had for a very, very long while, is a big, strong spine round the team, and then you can work in it around there. So it's a very, very key point. And the other point it's got to know we still need holding midfield. Some players in midfield. The Danny Ceballos one is going to come because I think he's improving every week. You know what I mean? If we can do it, we can get him for maybe another year on loan. That would be try and do it. I don't know. So just to keep the balance of the team going and then just push us forward, because I'm telling you that now, if you've got those two players in there and you're not giving away chances at the back, we have got some exciting young players and attacking options to go forward. And it's not just about the central defenders. You've got to shore it up in front of it as well. Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, Martin Keown, although Kolo Toure were fantastic defenders, but they had Patrick Vieira in front of them. And that is something that Arsenal have not addressed. They've got to address it this season for us moving forward.
100%. There's so much to do this summer that it feels like in the short space of time, because we don't even know like when the next season's going to start. And there's the interest.
No, that's true.
It's an interesting thing about when the transfer window is going to close. It could be in October, is supposedly, and that could leave us, say, a month into the new season with the transfer window still open. We still don't know when it's going to start. They've not yet confirmed it. And if transfer dealings are going to get done by Arsenal, there's a lot to do, and it has to be done quickly. It has to be done before the season starts. It can't be lengthened out. Arsenal can't be penny pinching, and we always talk about that, but they need to get the business done early so things can settle. Arteta can get his first proper pre-season under his belt with the squad that he wants as immediately as feasibly possible. I don't want to see Saliba having loads of pressure put on him. I feel like he already has. But it's important that we don't put loads of pressure on this guy because he's still so young. And to put the amount of pressure that is going to be on him for a £27 million signing, it is going to be it's going to be tough for the kid if he doesn't quite hit the ground running as people expect him to. I don't feel like he'll start the season personally. I still think we'll go with more experience, and that might frustrate people. But you need to be careful with these youngsters. You can't just burn them out so fast. But if it turns out that he's up for the job, then brilliant. We're going to spend the rest of the show, the last 10 minutes or so, looking ahead because there is a massive game at the weekend against Wolves. French, when you look at this side in Wolves, Arsenal are on a hell of a run. They've beaten a Southampton side that looked good after the restart. They were winning their games against Norwich. They're winning away from home as well, doing really well. And Arsenal managed to get a decent result against them, even though they had a man sent off. They then gone and beaten Sheffield United, who, of course, have just beaten Spurs, so that win looks really, really strong. And then we've gone and won really fantastically against Norwich. We haven't mentioned Cedric at any point, but it was great to see the Cedric score, of course. And there's some big decisions I feel that Arteta's got to make, Cedric included in that, for who plays. Where's your head at with this Wolves game? And are you more confident now than you were, say, 2 weeks ago going to this game? And do you think there's a chance for us to get a result?
Well, if you remember 2 weeks ago, whenever the last pod was, not even 2 weeks ago, about a week ago, I said that all of a sudden after, that Southampton win, it feels like there's a few positives to look at, and all of a sudden the table becomes interesting again. The European places are now within some reach. Wolves are 6 points ahead of us. So this is actually, if you're looking at the table, if you want to get into Europa League, which is a whole different discussion, a must-win game. For me, I think we need to get into the Europa League just on a sort of financial basis. I think it's good for the team to have more games. As a fan, I want to see more games personally. So yeah, I think this game is very important. A lot of people have already kind of written off the season, so I don't know how you'd see it in that situation. But for me, I think it's a must-win game. I think it tells us sort of if we have a chance of, it'll tell us a lot in terms of if we have a chance of getting into Europe. We'll be 3 points behind with 6 or 5 games left to play. And it's Wolves. It's not Man City or Liverpool. It's a beatable team. It's a winnable game. So I think I'm kind of positive in terms of what we're going to get out of it. I've gone back to the kind of maniacal optimism. So I'm going for a 3-1. I think we'll get it. I think Cedric has to start. Pepe's been rested for that. Saka's been rested for that. I think Tierney as well will probably have a solid game. This is the kind of game where we need our good players, our best players to be on point, but also our kind of mid-level players to be on point. Everyone needs to have their game there. Can't have those lapses of concentrations. We can't have too many Mustafi moments. But I think Yeah, I think it's a big game. I think it was a big game last season as well. I think we got destroyed. So, it's kind of significant in a lot of ways with regards to our chances for Europe and our chances in the table, and a real test in terms of, we've beaten a few games and a lot of people have, said all sorts of stuff like it's just Norwich and lucky against Sheffield or whatever.
Yeah.
But, Wolves, they're a very good side. They're not the top side, but they're a very good side. So if we beat them, then it'll be a really good measure of what we've been doing.
Drew, this Wolves team, I want to kind of focus in on you with a little bit, because whilst the likes of Sheffield United and Leicester, who are the other two sort of surprise-ish sides that are up there this season, have begun to falter under Project Restart, Wolves have been the side that haven't really. They've kept ploughing on. They're plugging away with results, getting wins away at Aston Villa, etc. Players like Jimenez and Dendoncker are performing well, and they're wide players like Jota. And who's the left back? It's Johnny Castro, isn't it? Playing at left back, and he's done really, really well since coming back in. But I still see elements of that team that can be got at. I feel like the centre-back area is arguably the weakest part of their team, and that's not to disrespect those players, because it's more of a compliment to the rest of their side. I still think there's weaknesses that Arsenal can exploit, but I just, as a team and as a collective, this Wolves side looks the best of the bunch that are going for the sort of Europa/fifth spot, which could become a Champions League place. So how do you evaluate this Wolves side, and where do we need to be looking at really attacking them?
I mean, their form is pretty absurd, and I think they're the most informed team in the Premier League at the moment. They've only allowed 2 in the last 6 appearances. They only have a draw out of that, so it makes for hard reading on paper. But I think you bring up a good point. This is, and you guys probably be happy about that I'm saying about this, but this is a match where you have to start either Nketiah or Auba through the middle. You have to, and the reason is because of the center backs. They defend quite well as a unit. I think there's no disputing that. Look at their defensive record this season. It's one of the best in the league, but they're so susceptible to genuine pace that someone like Auba or Nketiah, who want to constantly press and put them under pressure, can cause real problems for them. It also, maybe if it pins back someone like a Dendoncker or Ruben Neves, that'd be great as well. Occupy their kind of creative central players. We have a chance at it. My concern is on the flip side as well. I'm terrified of if Traore finds any amount of space against us at any point, he single-handedly can put us to bed. That's a big concern for me as well. And I think it's a big test for Tierney should he start, which I think he will. That'll be a first real good test from a really good battle, hopefully. But I think there's a result in there. I think it'll help that there's no fans allowed still. I know we're away from home, but there's no crowds to contend with. I think that's a big plus point for us. It's just I think it's going to be a game of chances. Wolves create very, very well, and they're pretty balanced as well. They don't just need open play chances. They're very good on set pieces, something that we oftentimes do struggle with. You worry that if someone like Traore or Jota will find space, that maybe you see someone like a Mustafi or a Luis make a rash challenge. And I'm not trying to say that as I expect out of them, but the possibility is there because we've seen it historically. So I think both teams have similar strengths and weaknesses, actually. So I think, if anything, I wouldn't be shocked if there was a draw. I wouldn't be sad if it was a draw. But as French said, and as I said in the chat earlier on WhatsApp, that you look at the places, that anything below City, it's very, very close. It's very, very Bundesliga-esque in a way where one win against any chance. One good result against someone close to you will really put you in a lot of good and better standing. And we're on some sort of form, and it seems like we're more confident now. I think that Norwich result wasn't just about trying to fight for Europe. I think it's just about confidence. Players' confidence in themselves, players' confidence in Arteta's plan, the tactics involved. So I think that beating Wolves, I think, will go on a run, actually, because that's one of our main contenders right now for getting a top 5 or 6 place. Yeah. If we win, then we have Leicester, who are in dreadful form over the last 13, 14 matches. Beating Wolves will put us in good position to actually try to get a result against Leicester as well. And if you never know, if we win those 2, and I hate being overly optimistic, but 2 wins of those 2 matches, I mean, we're right up in it for the rest of the year. So you got to be positive.
Yeah, I think that, you bring up Leicester. Leicester is the game. I mean, even Spurs. I mean, the Leicester game, I feel, is the one that identifies the best chance of getting 3 points in that run of the next 4 games, is because they're such in poor form. I was on with Lee Chapman on Terry's show, who's known as being the Jamie Vardy lookalike guy, and he was basically he was pulling his hair out effectively at Leicester's form, and he couldn't believe how they've restarted. But the Wolves game I see as the second hardest behind Liverpool, although Liverpool are 3-0 down now, and maybe they'll be a different side having won the league, and mentally that can have an effect on the side. So that will make them vulnerable in the sense we're at home. And I know that we've got no fans there, but is it weird that I feel like we're playing better at home without the fans in the ground to sort of add that added pressure? It's a weird scenario, that. So, Drew, can I have a scoreline just before I move on to judges?
I hate you.
I was going to push it for it.
I'm going to say 2-2. I think we'll play well, but I think Wolves have too much quality for us to keep a clean sheet. So yeah, 2-2.
So judges, finishing off with you then, mate, on this Wolves game. They're a tough side. What are you thinking?
Do you know what? Drew's made a very, very good point about the away fans, because when you go there, they put you down on the side. They put you all on the side, and it's very, very thin. So they actually give you the whole side. But you can't, because it's so thin, you can't get an atmosphere drawn out because you're all spread all along the line. So it's very clever how they've done it. So you don't really generate a good atmosphere, hostile. And my God, they generate it from three sides, and it can be very, very intimidating. And I'm going to say that last year we went there. It was the worst. It was, we was done and dusted after 60 minutes, totally outplayed, and it was, you couldn't get the team going because there's just, there's just pockets of you everywhere. So they've done it very clever. So that will eliminate that, which will be I think a good thing. In saying that, though, I still don't see us winning this game. I think that I think that unfortunately the word we've got to defend well and Arsenal don't go well. And that is unfortunately how it is, I think, because we're going to have to defend a very, very high level. If we can do that, then we've got a chance. But I'm going to go with Drew on a 2-2. And I don't think, if I'll be honest, that would be a bad result. But somewhere along the line, if we're going to start, to more importantly get above them and push into the top 6, 7, we have got to make up for the Brighton defeat. We wasn't expected to lose there, which we did. So we've got to go to either Wolves or Tottenham where we're not expected to win and win. And that is a key. But I don't see it being this one, because I think that, in my opinion, Wolves are a very, very good side. And I think they've still got a very good chance of top 4, by the way, So we could actually puncture that. Maybe a little bit of pressure on them. I don't know for going for that. But I'm gonna say that we'll get a draw out of this, and I agree with Drew with a 2-2.
Awesome. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win with a very, very late Cedric left-footed goal that takes a deflection and goes past the keeper, exactly like he just scored against Norwich. So that's going to be. I did say in my prediction for the game against Norwich that Cedric would score. So I said 1-0, I think it was, but I still said that he would score. So fingers crossed it can happen again. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Big Gunner D reckons it's going to be 2-1 Arsenal. Rye Dog reckons 1-0 Arsenal. Archie reckons 1-0 Arsenal. I mean, imagine if I'd asked the chat box after that defeat to Brighton what the score against Wolves would have been. I reckon it would have been 8-0 and ridiculous. So it's amazing how in such short a space of time things can change. I mean, Aaron says 7-0 to Arsenal. As Guendouzi said, they don't get paid as much as our players. Ashwin says 1-0 to the Arsenal. Javier reckons we're going to go and beat Leicester 2-1 when we do play them. And Alan says 3-1 to the Arsenal as well. Avon says, I'm assuming that Cedric plays. I mean, are you guys in favour of Cedric playing over Bellerin? I feel like Bellerin has really struggled recently. I'd like to see the guy come in or Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
Well, I think be hard on Maitland-Niles after a brilliant performance from last week. I think you're setting the precedent. I thought he was outstanding last week, and he also contributed to Pepe's performance because he fed him so well. So I think that if the likes of Pepe and Saka come back and Maitland-Niles would be left out, it would be harsh, but if Arteta is looking at Cedric as being his man for the future, then it's best to get him games under his belt now. So I think it's been really interesting. I think by looking at Bellerin's face, I think he knows that he might not be too busy at the weekend. But
yeah, I think he was the only man in the ground that wasn't happy to see Cedric score, to be honest.
Well, I can understand that. I can understand.
Yeah, of course. Of course, you want to play games, and it's the Bellerin situation's growing increasingly more intriguing as the season goes on. That's going to do us for today. Thank you ever so much, everyone that has tuned in this evening. We've had an absolute pleasure entertaining you for the hour or so that we've been on. Drew, even though we've not seen you, and you've managed to do a bit of a carjacking whilst we've been away, it's been a pleasure to have you on, mate.
Yeah, it's good to always be on, and I'll be back on cam next time, so no worries.
Good stuff. I mean, hopefully you sort your hair out by then and we can actually see.
I pray, but my concern now is that everyone's going to be getting haircuts because we've all been locked away for 4 months. I'm not waiting like on a 3-week wait list for that nonsense.
When's your hairdressers open again? Are they closed?
No, he's open now. It's a matter of, right.
America, the worst hit country of COVID in the world, and only they've got their hairdressers open.
Yeah, of course. Go figure, right?
Amazing. And our hairdresser's open in 2 days' time. So both me and Lee will be down there getting our hair cut.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Lee. Pleasure as always, mate.
I wish it was the same my way. You know what I mean? I've been abused. I know why Drew's quiet now, because all this Upper Makana sort of stuff, he can't show his face these days now, can he? Like,
no. You can talk. You can say it if he actually shows up. Then I'll take the credit.
Taking the L.
He'll have to have an haircut like me if he does. I feel like that.
That's not a haircut. That's a shearing. That's not a haircut.
You wait till I see you.
Cheers, French, mate.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good to be on the Arsenal Talk show.
Don't.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I'm glad we didn't talk about Balogun either. So much positivity going around. We didn't go over that, so that's nice. But yeah, nice being with you, lads.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. And thank you to all of you guys in our chat box for watching. You've been absolutely brilliant, as always, with fantastic comments. We'll be back again tomorrow for the preview of the Wolves game and any news that happens to crop up as well. There was a couple of mentions of tactical breakdowns. I mean, Drew, can you shed any light on this? Is it Cooper Mine? Is it Coop Miners of RZ Out?
Coop Miners?
Yes. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, he's kind of similar to Saka in a way. He's left-footed, can play 6'8". He can play center back. He's got some good deep creativity. He's good on set pieces. He gets like 6 or 7 goals in midfield a season. He's actually can offer you goals from center of the park, so it's quite good. He's young and he's already as a captain at 21. So
wow.
Yeah. I quite like him.
To be fair.
I mean, yeah, but I think all the fans now are seeing that Xhaka actually should be one of the captains, and he was captain at Gladbach as well. So you never know. But yeah, I'll take him.
I'll have to do a little bit of a dig into this guy.
Just speak to Mr. Rowe. You know it as well. You know you're talking.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow for the preview show. Absolute pleasure. Please drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. And as always, up the Arsenal.